Attention, Patriots Nation! Today, Foxborough is boiling over with expectations, rumors, and decisions that could change the destiny of our team forever. I have exclusive information that will make your heart race if you carry blue, red, and silver in your veins. We are living in a decisive moment. Mike Vrabel is orchestrating every move with the cold precision of a master strategist and the relentless hunger of someone who will settle for nothing less than another Lombardi trophy shining in the showcases of Gillette Stadium. But it's not all sunshine. There are major challenges that must be resolved before we can truly dream big. And that's exactly why I'm here today, to lay it all out, to tell you everything I've discovered in the past few hours about the behind-the-scenes moves, the hallway conversations, and the decisions that could define the fate of the upcoming season. But before I reveal every detail, do me a favor, smash that like button right now. But only do it if you trust that Elliot Wolf has the perfect plan to bring the Patriots back to the top of the world. Honestly, I believe with all my heart that this is the turning point. If you feel this energy too, I want to see you comment down below. Go Pats! Onward to the Super Bowl. Now, focus, because what I'm about to share could change everything you think you know about the future of our franchise. This is the moment of truth. Let's go! You're not going to believe what just came out of Pro Football Focus. Imagine this. After an entire season of watching Drake Maye drag through the mud behind one of the worst defensive lines in professional football, with wide receivers who couldn't create separation if you gave them a map, PFF has the audacity to claim that the absolute ceiling for Drake Maye is Trevor Lawrence. That's right, Trevor Lawrence, who in 4 years has been a roller coaster of mediocrity and flashes of competence. And the kicker? They're suggesting that Maye's floor is Daniel Jones, as if this entire Patriots rebuild doesn't exist, as if this roster hasn't been completely transformed to set Maye up for something so much bigger than the disasters of 2024. Let's lay this out so every Patriots fan can feel the same righteous fire that's got my blood boiling right now. Pro Football Focus, through the voice of John Kosko, actually wrote that despite Maye's 80 big-time throws in college, despite his 1.7% turnover-worthy throw rate, despite the flashes of athleticism, they're capping his long-term upside at a guy whose best NFL trait is that he was picked first overall. I'm going to read you this word for word so you know I'm not making it up. He showed off an incredible arm in college. With the Pats, though, he was with one of the worst supporting casts around. His projections moving forward shouldn't change. So apparently, Maye is frozen in time, trapped forever in a season where his pass block win rate ranked 31st out of 32, where he was pressured on 40% of his dropbacks, and where the run blocking was dead last in the entire NFL. Tell me, how is any quarterback supposed to look like Joe Montana under those conditions? Let's get real. Drake Maye's rookie season was one of the toughest trial-by-fire debuts you could imagine. He played only 13 games. In his very first action, he came off the bench, tried to engineer a late drive, and got absolutely destroyed by defenders because the line couldn't hold up for even 2 seconds. Yet he still threw 15 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, more scores than a lot of rookies who came into far better circumstances. And I want you to picture the offensive line he had protecting him: Badarian Lowe, Michael Jordan, Ben Brown, Mike Onwenu, and Damon Trey Jacobs. This was the group that was supposed to stop NFL defensive fronts. Their PFF grades were a crime scene. Now, finally, every single one of those names is gone. The 2025 line is rebuilt from the studs up, and the only holdover is Cole Strange, who, let's be honest, has been the weak link in this entire conversation. Meanwhile, the receiving core in 2024 was almost comical in its ineptitude. Pop Douglas, Keyshawn Bout, Kendrick Bourne, good competitors, but not even close to the caliber of weapons you give a young QB to help them learn how to win. As a unit, the Patriots ranked dead last in the league in receiving yards and 28th in receptions and touchdowns. That's the real context behind the so-called mediocre year from Drake Maye. And in 2025, there's no excuse anymore. The front office signed Stephon Diggs, a legitimate number 1 target who can create separation all over the field. They drafted Kyle Williams, who brings fresh legs and explosiveness. They added Mac Hollins, who stretches defenses vertically, exactly the dimension that was missing last year. All this means Maye is finally going to be able to showcase what Patriots fans glimpsed in those rare moments when the pocket didn't implode immediately. The cannon arm, the mobility, the fearlessness to take off and pick up yards with his legs when the play breaks down. But here's where PFF's comparison to Trevor Lawrence totally unravels. They don't play remotely the same style of football. You've got Lawrence, a pure pocket passer who never seems comfortable running. His entire NFL career, he's barely cracked 400 rushing yards in a season, including a 10-game 2024 campaign where he logged just 119. Maye, by contrast, ran for 421 yards as a rookie behind the worst offensive line in the sport. When nothing was open and the protection failed, again and again, he used his legs to bail out drives and move the chains. That is not a comparison to Trevor Lawrence. It's closer to a comparison with Josh Allen, who PFF didn't even bother to mention because it would have forced them to acknowledge that Maye has a higher ceiling than they want to admit. If you still doubt that, let's walk through the projected stats for 2025. ESPN Fantasy Football, for whatever you think of their projections, expects Maye to complete 66.6% of his passes, throw 22 touchdowns, rack up 3,600 passing yards, and add nearly 500 more on the ground. Now remember, Trevor Lawrence in his best season threw 23 touchdowns and 11 picks. That was his high watermark, not his baseline. Maye is projected to match that in his second year, not his fourth, and with a skill set that's far more dynamic in every way. He has a better arm, he has better mobility, he's more physical, and he can break the pocket in a way Lawrence simply cannot. So when PFF says Maye's ceiling is Trevor Lawrence, what they're really saying is they've stopped watching the actual games. They've stopped caring about what happens on the field. And let's talk about the floor comparison for a minute. Daniel Jones. Sure, if everything goes wrong, if this new offensive line somehow collapses again, if Diggs can't stay healthy, if Josh McDaniels fails to fix the play calling, it's possible Maye could struggle. But don't pretend that Jones' 2022 season, the one where he took the Giants to the playoffs, threw 15 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and ran for over 700 yards, wasn't a legitimate NFL performance. If that is the worst-case scenario, Patriots fans should be feeling a lot more confident than PFF is trying to make you feel. But make no mistake, Maye is already ahead of where Jones was in year 2, and he hasn't even played a full season healthy with an NFL-caliber supporting cast. So here's what this all boils down to. Drake Maye was drafted into a disaster, a perfect storm of incompetent offensive line play, injury-riddled receivers, and a coaching staff that couldn't design an effective game plan if you handed them a blueprint. Now, that storm has passed. The Patriots have rebuilt everything around him, given him weapons, hired Josh McDaniels to fix the offense, and made sure that in 2025, excuses are gone. He has every opportunity to take this team out of the cellar and show the football world that his ceiling isn't Trevor Lawrence. It's something closer to an MVP-level dual-threat leader who can take over games with his arm and his legs. I'm telling you right now, if you think the best Drake Maye can ever be is a carbon copy of Trevor Lawrence, you haven't been paying attention. And you're going to be shocked at what happens when this kid finally has a fair shot. But that's just my take. I want to hear yours. Who do you believe will have the better NFL career, Drake Maye or Trevor Lawrence? Drop your opinion in the comments. Type DM if you think Maye is going to prove all the doubters wrong, or type TL if you're still holding out hope for Trevor Lawrence to live up to his hype. And if you're still with me, Patriots Nation, I can promise you this is where it gets even more interesting, because the comparisons don't stop with Trevor Lawrence. No, Pro Football Focus managed to go even further down the rabbit hole of absurdity by stacking up Drake Maye alongside quarterbacks whose games looked nothing like his, whose circumstances were nowhere near as dire, and whose trajectories were already wobbling before they hit the NFL field. I'm talking about the casual throwaway lines in their analysis, where they rattled off ceilings for other young QBs that sound like they were picked out of a hat. Bo Nix's